Welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast, where really life goes on. That's okay. My name, your host, is Hanna Nuss, and it has been such an amazing journey. And I don't know, I didn't expect to end up where we are right now. I will say, for listeners who have gone through the entirety of this journey, who have either been listening from the start or went back and started at the beginning and are now here, my hope is that you feel the growth, the change in energy, the shift. I can't say exactly when the shift happened. I will say it is not an overnight shift. And I think that that's the beauty of hopefully the entirety of this work, is that someday this will just show someone that it doesn't happen overnight. Even if those are kind of the comments, that we all receive, that, oh my gosh, you made it. Gosh, that was fast. And to you, right? You've been working on this every second of every day for the past 5, 10, 15 years. And so to everyone else, it's going to seem like overnight. I know it's kind of like pregnancy, if you've ever been pregnant or had friends or family members pregnant, and all of a sudden they're posting oh, end of the journey, baby's about to be here. And I actually texted my friend the other day. I'm like, wow, your pregnancy has gone really fast for me. Right? To everyone else, it is going to seem fast. And to you, it is going to seem like turtle movement. And so the most important thing is that you just keep your eyes and mind on the bigger picture. I think that helps contribute to consistency and understanding of the importance of the process prior to bigger picture, and just generally the love and the believability in your able body to love this moment. So okay, let's ground ourselves in our greatness. My great thing over the weekend has just been, I think the most beautiful part is the ripple effect. And I've talked about the ripple effect and how amazing it is. But I think for me, it's I don't teach or talk or anything. And my truest belief is that no one listens to this podcast that I know. And it doesn't matter, right? People are impacted by your shift in energy, whether they're listening or not. I can tell that people I know realize that something is different and therefore respond differently to the energy that I'm bringing to a room. And that creates an insane ripple effect that you couldn't even imagine. And so they don't necessarily need or want to be taught by you. And I think it's important to highlight that, because if you're making shifts in your own life, I think the automatic thing we want to do is teach and tell everyone, period. I know, gosh, we just talked about money last week. I know when we started on our kind of figuring out money journey, that was my initial thought. It's I am here to teach the world, to introduce them all to Dave Ramsey, and they shall understand and we shall change this culture. And first off, if you even approach anyone on the subject and you say, this is what we're going to do, we're going to be debt-free, instant walls. Whether or not they even continue the conversation after that is pretty rare. If the conversation continues, it will likely end dismally in your favor. And so I think starting your journey doesn't mean that you have to teach everyone. Allow people to be impacted by your change in energy versus having to jump out and teach everyone. And so I think for me, this podcast has been such a beautiful way for me to express that without projecting it onto everyone that I know and love. Because most of the time, and I think this is the most realistic statement, most of the time the people that are closest to us can't accurately learn from us, right? And so the best way that they can learn from us is just to feel the shift, and then to want, just so that it kind of pushes them to go find whatever it is that's going to shift them. That's not yours to do. You aren't going to know what will work for them because you don't know anyone's background. You can know a little bit, but you don't know all of the things. And so when it comes to inner circle people, we can help, as we continue down our own journey, but we're never going to know exactly what will work for them. And I think that's been the most important shift in the entirety of this work, is at some point I realized I'm not, like, whatever I do is not necessarily a prescription for you, right? You can look at what I'm doing. You can take what I'm saying and interpret that and then apply it to your own life. And I think that's what I love about the podcast, is so exact and so it just explains deeper things. And I think that'll be the beauty of the book, is that there's some open interpretation possible, right? Where you could take the words that I'm saying and apply them differently. And so I just love the thought of expanding the mediums just for the ability for this to translate different ways, right? But you could take this and try to apply it exactly to your life, and it still isn't going to get you there. So I think at some point we shifted to a place where it was like, this may not work for you. The most important thing is that you just keep going. And so that's what this podcast really is about. The continuance of the question, the continuance of just support in you pushing yourself beyond what you thought was possible. And we're going to dive into that a little bit today, because it's kind of been hanging out with me. Definitely had multiple conversations this weekend about this thought and this idea of ideas and the culmination and creation of the things that you have in your head, and the beauty of that. And so we're going to dive into that today. But I really think, end of the day, my great thing is just continuing to figure out what this is and how to keep expanding it and thinking about it. And, for me, seeing how, even if I don't teach, even if you don't take in any of this material, how just the ripple effect of just being a different energy, how that impacts my inner circle, right? Even if they have no access or want to any of this, there is like a gravitational pull that starts to happen when you actually start to shift and show up regularly as that person. Because I think that's the bigger challenge. It's like, you can't come to Christmas and be preaching about this, oh, I learned this, I know this, I'm doing this, and then show up to Easter and have a negative energy wavelength, right? Like, there's going to be clause in the believability of what you're doing. And so it's about consistently showing up. And so if you only have 5 instances where you're around your family and you only talk at 2 of them to anyone, and one of the 2, right? The first one you were all amped up, and the second one you were kind of just a bad energy, a blah energy. That's a pretty, right? That's not enough proof. And so, especially around family, it's the same as with like weight loss, right? Like, it takes 6 weeks for you to notice changes. It takes 12 weeks for anyone to notice. And it takes, I don't even know, 90 days. Is that 12 weeks? Dang it. I don't know. It's a lot more time for everyone to notice, right? And that's like your energy shift. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a whole lot of consistency. And you have to pay attention to how you're showing up there. And I think with your family, it's the hardest because we have these wants to like return to the person we were as a child. So we feel free and protected there, right? And so like I always want to go back to like the crazy, loud person automatically when I walk through the door of either of my parents' house. And that's okay, right? But I have to pay attention to how I'm presenting myself all the time. And that's not even a presentation of like, oh, Hannah's this businesswoman now. Hanna does a podcast now. Hannah's enlightened now. This is like a protection of my energy, outgoing and incoming, right? And that is super important. And so allow the ripple effect to happen over time. It is not our job to enlighten and inspire everyone. If people are open to hearing that from you, I think that's great. But no, one, you aren't going to be everyone's cup of tea. And two, your family may just not be able to take that from you, but that doesn't mean they can't find it from somewhere else. And they will. So they'll want to match your frequency as you continue to present as this energy persona. Okay, got it? Anyways, allow the ripple effect. It will happen. Mine has taken, let's see, about 2.5 years to kind of manifest, and I can start seeing where people are taking their own journeys and finding their own way. And I think the best thing that I can do is just sit back and allow them to experience and navigate that and just ask questions and to continue down their own path as they see fit. But don't force it. They'll get there because they'll want to match that. I promise. Okay, just let them go. And once they start seeing you change over time, once they start seeing consistency in how you're showing up, they'll want to start matching that. But it is not going to come if you're forcing it on them, period. Okay, that's my great thing. Take time for yourself. Recognize yourself for your great thing. We're going to get into like the importance of finding new frequency and then believing that you deserve that new frequency. And we talked about that last week, right? Like energy and the shift and all of those things. I know, right? So today and this weekend I was talking to my sister and we were talking about like creating your own thing and believing in your own creation. And I think those are two very, very hard things. And this is what I want to just throw out there for everyone. First off, any idea that you have swirling around in your head right now, whether that's going back to school, whether that's applying for the job, whether that's like being happy with right where you are because you seriously love what you're doing and the people you're around and it's so amazing. Or you want to like venture out and try something new and you've had this idea for a while and you want to see what it looks like to bring it to life. Here's the deal. On that road, you're going to begin to test, right? You want to validate that belief that you have. And the belief normally sounds like this. I want to do this because I believe that it's going to lead to prosperity or alignment or fill in that blank, right? I want to do this. And so you're going to test that and it's going to sound like that, right? Hey sis, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. How are you? Great. I really want to start this business because I think it's just going to change the world. And more often than not, the response is going to be, well, the world, the whole world, well, that, I don't, right? And they're going to like set you up to start protecting yourself with this idea. And this is what I want to tell you today. First off, some people aren't going to be ready to receive what you have to say, same as how we started this podcast. The people that are closest to you a lot of times aren't the ones that are going to be able to take that in from you. They know too much about you. They don't probably know all of the ins and outs about you, but they do know, the crazy person who we won't even get into it. But they know you, right? In and out. And so they have this like set of beliefs about you. And so when you present them as either a new energy or someone who's going to go out and do something very serious and very potentially big, or small, but like different than what you're doing now, they're going to want to set you up to protect you from being hurt. Likely that's going to be the response. And so this is where I want to start to shift how you take that. First off, I would just take it as that, plain and simple. They're trying to protect me, period. And the other side of that is they're trying to protect me and they don't know all of me. No one can know all of you, period. No matter how much they know, no matter how many baths they gave you or diapers they changed, they don't know everything you've experienced. And no one else does either. And so when you have these ideas in your head, when you have these like wants, these additional wants that seem so far out there, but right, you can see it. You know what it is. You know what you want it to be. You can imagine it. You can dream it. It's like so close that you can touch it, and yet it's so far away. But you know that you just need to start making a move. Move beyond that first comment and the second comment and the third comment, because here's what happens. You start to find people who are going to support you, who do believe in it, and then keep moving. Don't allow anyone to interrupt your pursuit. So what does that look like? You reach out to a resource and you don't hear back, or you hear back right away and then you never hear anything again, or you go into their class but it just like isn't taking you to the right space where you wanted to go. It's okay to keep moving and keep finding. It's the same as with your self-work, your self-development. Not everything is going to be for you, just like every mentor program that was built to support and grow you is not for you. Should I say that again? Right? Not every single person, not every single resource is going to support and grow you where you need to go. And even though it worked for other people and it's worked for a lot of people, that does not mean that it's going to work for you. And that does not mean that it's going to support you in the way that you need to be supported to grow whatever it is you have inside of your head. And so just keep seeking, keep going, never stop. Movement forward. And when I say that, I don't mean like don't take breaks, send all the email, do all the things, keep hustling, never stop moving. Not in that way, right? Like just keep moving. And when you aren't feeling energy to move forward, just make sure that you keep that up and in your mind somewhere enough so that it has a pulse. It doesn't necessarily have to have a fast pulse. It doesn't necessarily have to like be running forward. It doesn't necessarily have to look like applying for 10 different programs. Like just keep a little bit of a pulse on there so that you know that it's still alive. But your idea, bottom line, is yours. And so people can come in and this is where I think we all get a little bit misguided. People will come in and you'll want to trust people with like a wealth of experience in any given modality. So if they've built a lot of businesses or they're some form of success, you're going to look to them and be like, oh, this person should guide me, no question. And I think there is a lot of great help out there. And there are a lot of great mentors who can take you wherever you want to go. I want you to just go in protecting yourself and know that no one person is going to have the exact answer and solution for whatever it is you're facing or whatever it is you're going after. You are the source. You are the source. Even if you have no experience at all, even if you have no wealth of knowledge, you are the source. You are the one who knows the idea front, back, and upside down. You are the only one. I'm going to say that again. You are the only one. You are the only one who knows this as well as you do. And while you may not be connected, while you may not have all of those resources, like you can tap into that stuff. But if you lose and hand over the idea and you let it become something different from what you saw happening, you aren't going to like the end product, right? And you don't have to change. Okay? You don't have to change. You don't have to comply. You don't have to, just because someone says, well, that's never going to be successful. They don't know. They don't really know. And no one knows. Like if you just look at the things that become successful, there's never an exact algorithm of how they did that. Why? Because they didn't even know, right? All they had was this passion and this truth. Gosh, I was watching the making of Elf, the Christmas movie Elf. And the writer of that just had this idea. And it was funny because he was pitching for so long, and then he had finally landed a company that was going to produce this movie. And right, everybody, they would go, oh my gosh, perfect. Like, you've been waiting for this for so long. Just do what they say. Do what they say. Be successful. Like, they're going to make this. And so the first people that, and it wasn't the first company that he had pitched, but the first company that picked it up and said that they were going to produce it had given him like a year contract. And they wanted to produce it with Chris Farley, I think, as the main character, as Elf. And he ended up saying no, and he let the year lapse, which is probably a really, really crazy thing to do. Because, you know, if you're a starving artist, if that even exists, you've been waiting to land and to produce and to bring this to life the way that you see it. But that was just it. The way that he saw it being brought to life wasn't with Chris Farley. It didn't make sense to him. It didn't align with what he wanted. And so he passed. Because he knew, right? He knew. And while he didn't know who would end up playing Elf, he knew in his gut that Chris Farley was not the appropriate star of this movie, that it would take the movie a different direction than what he wanted. And he didn't know who, but he knew that wasn't right. And so he went ahead and let that contract expire. He let that year run out, and then he went out and started searching for new people to produce this movie that would align better with what he saw for this movie, and he didn't settle. And so when you do have big ideas and you do have a vision of where you want to go, I know that it's so hard to not just pass go and run as quickly as you can to profit. But sometimes it is worth protecting your idea. Period. Explanation point. Asterisk. Because here's what happens. You run forward with like blind green madness, right? Like, oh, we're gonna be rich. And like for the Elf, right? Like, oh my gosh, I've been pitching this story for so long. I've been writing this movie for so long. Like, look, we finally landed. Yay. We could produce this. I could make money off of this. Like, Chris Farley, let's just do it. And most of the world would jump at that and let it be Chris Farley, right? And run, because I got my money, I got my cut, goodbye. But some people know their idea in and out, and they protect it. And so anything that you want to go out and build, anything that you want to go out and do, allow yourself to protect what it is that you know. And you don't know everything, but you do know your idea better than most. And most people are going to give you advice or sell you advice, and they are always going to claim that they know best and that they are the experts. And sometimes they absolutely are. No question. But you are the expert in your subject matter, in whatever idea it is in your head. And so you owe it to yourself to protect that and to hold onto it, even if you're being told you're dumb, even if you're being told just make the money and then go make something. Like with Elf, he could have just made that money. A Chris Farley movie at that point in time probably would have done just fine. It probably would have been funny. It probably would have been fine. Do we want fine? Do we want our dreams and our ideas to be fine, only to end up on the other side in the same place we were when we started this journey, right? And for me specifically, that was so much what I was trying to save myself from, that now that becomes the hardest part of this journey, is saying no to things that really would probably serve me just fine, right? And especially right now, because, I don't know, in the world, do we operate in scarcity or do we operate in abundancy? Usually scarcity. And so people will try to scare you into the places that they are in their own life too. Like, Hanna, are you insane? You could be charging for X, Y, and Z. You could be building X, Y, Z. You could do all of these things with this. What are you doing? And like, I'm not being lazy or crazy or whatever. Like, I have a vision for what this is and how it plays out. And my vision is to never monetize my listeners. Why? I don't know, because I didn't have access to those things, right? Like, I didn't have access. The things that I could access were a $12 to $20 book. And I had to like donate plasma for 3 months to afford a ticket to a conference. And so, yeah, like, am I building it different than most people? Yeah. But am I doing that intentionally? Absolutely. I don't feel like it should be a pay to play. And so I'm just trusting that the people who do get something out of this will pay me back in some way by like sharing if they ever got any knowledge from it, by liking something, by, I don't know. But like, I trust in the universe of abundancy and know that at some point it will be paid back. And I don't expect anybody to reach in their pockets and pay me back for it, right? And that's just believing in the abundance of the world. And that's knowing that this isn't for me. And that's okay. Are there 100 billion different things that you could do with a podcast and a platform like this and a medium like this? Absolutely. I know my idea and what I want to do with this. And it is hard to not listen to people who have done amazing things with theirs and to stay true. But today, I just want you to really, you and me and everyone, to really stay focused on what you know to be true about you and about your idea. Because there are plenty of people who are out there, trying to scare you into believing that they are the only resource. Why? I don't know. Because they make money off of it? I don't know. Maybe, right? Or maybe just because they want to protect you, or you don't know what that underlying current is to them giving you advice, right? And so you just have to protect your own energy and your own belief that your idea and the world are abundant and beautiful. And protect yourself and your own vision. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.